Hello and welcome to another Swift 3D version 6 tutorial. And we have just a couple left. We're going to do this one, which is going to cover layout and environment, and we'll touch on camera, which are the three properties that are first available when you open a file. In the next tutorial we're going to talk about lighting and cameras, and then the next one after that, which will be the final one, we're going to discuss the advanced modeler. So regarding layout and environment, layout's very simple. You have three units you can choose from: pixels, inches, or centimeters, and most of us would use pixels. And let's say I was creating a desktop background, or maybe a background for my web page. I could just set the size I want the background to be. I'm going to go 1400 pixels wide and 900 pixels high. Okay, so now I'm going to add a torus. I'm going to rotate it just a bit. I'm going to get the segmentation up to 64, minor and major, to give me a better mesh quality. Now I'm going to go to the reflective materials, and I'm going to take out this reflective whitish gray color, and I'm going to use reflective just so you guys can see the different options when I talk about the environment here in just a second. Okay, so now that's set to a 1400 wide by 900 pixel high image that this will give out, or rendering that this will give out. Let me get one more torus in place. I'm going to highlight that, press Control C, Control V, and on the new one I'm just going to rotate it just a little bit to look something like that. Then I'm going to press Control A, and I can rotate both of them. Now the camera is, you can get to that in two ways. You can adjust that in two ways. You can just click up or down, and you'll see what that does for your camera. Or you can press Alt and then the right mouse key. Hold down the right mouse key and you'll see the same kind of functionality there. So Alt and right mouse key will have your camera go in and out. Now environment is very simple, and what that does is the background color. Like I said, if you want this to be a JPEG image, or maybe a default movie from Swift 3D, an AVI movie from Swift 3D, then you can set your background however you need it to be. You can see you can change your background color here if you needed to. But if you're rendering this out as a PNG or an SWF, that background won't be involved in the render. It'll just be the model. That way you can get really creative with whatever backgrounds you want to put in Flash or Photoshop or Fireworks. So that's background under the environment property. Now the ambient light color is also important. So if let's see, let me grab these two again. Let's rotate them a little more. Okay, so if I'm in environment and I have my ambient light color set to that gray, or that really dark gray, we can see what kind of tones that gives our model. Now if I go and I make that red, you see the tones that the model takes on, and that will be also shown in the render. Now the environment is, you can use anything for the environment. Actually, they have some down here, environments. You can put any of these gradients on. You can just grab the gradient, put it into the background there, and it shows up as the environment. You go to preview and export, generate selected frame, and you'll see that the models take on the reflections, and really the environment will only be reflected onto the objects in the scene if you're using the reflective materials, which when I started out I put reflective steel color onto my objects there. If these were flat or glossy, the environment really wouldn't show up as much. Now the last thing about the environment is you can then change your gradient. Generate preview, you see, you can change that gradient up, scale it, so you can manipulate that any kind of way you need to get just the desired effect that you want. But if I wanted to use one of my own custom bitmaps as the environment, scale, let's move in on this. Preview and export. So you see, it just picks up anything that I set as the environment as reflections upon my objects and models. And let's say if you were exporting out as a JPEG, then it will bring this gray image with the rendered file. You'll have this gray background. But if you export as PNG, it will only be the models, so then you can work further in Fireworks or Photoshop or Flash or whatever and put any kind of backgrounds you want using those programs behind the images, behind the 3D models. And that's all there is to the environment and layout. And so let's say I wanted to have a custom bitmap image come in as my background. I can put this plane, and I can set the rotation on the plane to 90 degrees. And I can just move it back. Let's grab it on this side, move it back. You can make it as big as you need to cover the whole scene if you want. And then you just apply an image to that as material. Any bitmap image you like. So let's say if I go to my libraries, a creative flow JPEG image, press OK, and there's creative flow behind the model. So let's grab both of these, move them a little bit. And then you'll see the creative flow back there. And I can also grab everything by pressing Control A and even rotate everything like this, you see? So using this method of creating a plane and then putting a custom bitmap on it, you can have your background integrated into your 3D model scene. So the background will have all the correct shadows and lighting that the modeled scene would render. So let's go to preview and export. And you see now that your background has the shadows on it that would be appropriate for the 3D scene. And you can also see a little reflection on the model of the background a little bit because I made that the environment. You see here? I put that custom bitmap also in the environment. So that's how that all works.